The room allegedly went silent before the damage was done. Not the kind of silence that passes, the kind that changes relationships forever. Because according to multiple so-called insiders, NBA Youngboy didn't just suspect something was wrong, he caught it. And what he allegedly discovered shook his inner circle so hard that people are still picking sides months later. This wasn't some random associate. This wasn't industry beef. This was someone from the mud. Someone who knew the codes, the rules, the unspoken loyalty that comes with surviving together. And when that loyalty was allegedly broken, sources say Youngboy didn't explode, he froze. And that reaction alone had people terrified. Because when someone that emotional goes quiet, you already know something irreversible is coming. What makes this story feel unreal is how fast everything unraveled. One moment, they're brothers. The next, lyrics start sounding like threats. People get removed without announcements. Phone calls stop getting answered. And suddenly, a name that used to be everywhere around Youngboy is missing, erased like they never mattered. But here's where it gets even darker. There are two versions of what happened. One side says money went missing. The other claims it was given and forgotten. Screenshots allegedly exist. Voice notes are rumored to be circulating. And people who were in the house that night? They're not talking, at least not publicly. Now fans are losing their minds trying to piece it together. Twitter is dissecting every lyric. Old interviews are being replayed like crime scene footage. And everyone wants to know the same thing. When NBA Youngboy realized the betrayal came from his own circle, what did he actually do? Because whatever it was, insiders say it ended a brotherhood forever, and what happens next might finally force the truth out. By the time the story leaked outside the circle, the damage had already been done. According to people who claim they were close enough to feel the shift in real time, the night everything went left didn't start with chaos, it started with confusion. Money that was supposed to be exactly where it was left, wasn't. And when you're talking about NBA Youngboy, missing money isn't just an inconvenience, it's a statement. Insiders allege the first reaction wasn't anger. It was disbelief. Youngboy allegedly double-checked. Then triple-checked. Then asked questions in a way that made everyone in the room uneasy. Because when you're surrounded by people you grew up with, the last thing you expect is betrayal from within. And that's what made this hit different. This wasn't about the amount. This was about trust being violated in the one place it was supposed to be untouchable. Sources say names weren't thrown around immediately. Youngboy allegedly moved quietly, watching reactions, clocking energy, replaying conversations in his head. Who knew what? Who was there? Who left early? Who suddenly got defensive? One insider claims Youngboy went completely silent for hours, barely speaking, just pacing. And that silence? It had everyone on edge. Because those closest to him know, when he stops talking, he's already decided something. Then came the confrontation. Allegedly not dramatic. No screaming. No swinging. Just a cold, direct question asked face to face. And according to people who claim they know, the answer he got didn't sit right. Excuses didn't line up. Timelines felt off. The vibe shifted instantly. One source described it as the room going dark without the lights changing. What made it worse is that this wasn't just any homie. This was someone who had eaten with him when there was nothing. Someone who benefited when the money finally came. Someone who knew exactly how much loyalty meant to Youngboy, and how deeply he takes betrayal. That's why insiders say the disappointment cut deeper than anger ever could. Behind the scenes, things allegedly escalated fast. Phones started buzzing. People started picking sides. One camp claimed it was a misunderstanding. Another whispered that this wasn't the first time money moved funny. Alleged screenshots started circulating. A voice note, unconfirmed, but heavily discussed, supposedly captured a tense exchange where someone insisted the money was given, not taken. But those close to Youngboy say that explanation only made things worse. Because here's the thing, in his world, permission is remembered. And if you have to explain it, something's already wrong. Fans didn't notice at first. But the signs were there. The absence. The sudden lack of photos together. No more mentions. No more appearances. And then came the music. Lyrics that didn't name names, but didn't need to. Bars about snakes in the grass. About people switching when money shows up. About cutting people off without warning. The internet caught on immediately. Twitter exploded. Reddit threads multiplied overnight. Old interviews resurfaced. Fans started connecting dots that hadn't mattered before. Who was missing from recent videos? Who stopped liking posts? Who unfollowed who? It became a digital crime scene, and everyone thought they had the answer. Meanwhile, insiders say Youngboy made a decision that shocked even those closest to him. No public call-out. No back and forth. No opportunity to explain further. Just a clean cut. People were told not to reach out. Access was revoked. And one source claims the message was simple: if I can't trust you with this, I can't trust you at all. That decision sent shockwaves through the camp. Because once Youngboy draws a line, there's no crossing it again. People who tried to mediate allegedly got shut down. Those who asked questions were reminded to mind their place. Loyalty, in his eyes, isn't negotiable, and once broken, it's done. But the other side wasn't quiet forever. Soon, interviews started popping up. Carefully worded. Emotional. Someone close to the situation finally spoke, claiming the narrative was wrong. That the money wasn't stolen, it was handed over. That substances played a role. That memories were blurry. That accusations were unfair. And that reputation was being destroyed over something that never should have happened. That's when the internet split in half. One side said stealing is stealing, no matter how you spin it. The other said misunderstandings happen, especially when money and chaos mix. But what nobody could ignore was the pain in the voice of the person now on the outside. Watching the empire they helped build continue without them. Watching tours sell out. Watching millions flow while they sat back, locked out of the circle. And according to insiders, Youngboy heard all of it. Every interview. Every clip. Every explanation. But he didn't respond. Not publicly. Not privately. Which only made things heavier. Because silence from him isn't confusion, it's final. But here's where things take a darker turn. Multiple sources now claim this wasn't the first red flag. That there were small moments before, money moving without explanation, questions brushed off, boundaries tested. Nothing big enough to explode, until now. And when everything is added up, some insiders believe this situation wasn't about one incident, it was about a pattern finally being confronted. And just when people thought the story had settled, a new rumor began circulating. Allegedly, there's one piece of evidence, something recorded, something saved, that could completely flip the narrative. Something that hasn't been released yet. Something both sides know exists. And if that ever comes out, the truth about who betrayed who might finally be undeniable. By the time the second wave of information hit, this was no longer just a fallout, it was a full-blown loyalty crisis playing out in public. Because once the silence stretched on, the vacuum got filled with whispers. And those whispers? They weren't coming from fans anymore. They were coming from inside the circle. According to multiple alleged insiders, the story didn't stop at missing money. That was just the spark. What really detonated everything was what came after, the explanations, the contradictions, and the realization that someone Youngboy trusted may have been moving reckless long before that night. One source claimed that once the confrontation happened, Youngboy didn't just walk away. He allegedly went back through everything. Old conversations. Old situations. Old favors that never quite sat right in hindsight. And that's when the paranoia set in. People close to him say he started questioning moments that were once brushed off as nothing. Cash requests that felt unnecessary. Entitlement disguised as brotherhood. Jokes about we all eating that suddenly sounded different. And when you've grown up with nothing, when you've seen how fast loyalty disappears once money shows up, those realizations hit like a punch to the chest. Behind the scenes, the accused homie allegedly tried to fix it. Not once. Not twice. Multiple times. Calls that went unanswered. Messages that never got opened. Mutual friends sent as intermediaries who were politely, but firmly, shut down. One insider claims the response was always the same: this isn't up for discussion. And that refusal to even talk? That's what pushed the other side to finally speak publicly. When the interviews started dropping, they felt less like explanations and more like emotional confessions. A man trying to save his name while watching his life unravel in real time. He spoke about sleepless nights. About being painted as something he never was. About how stealing is the one jacket you can't take off once it's put on you. And the internet ate it up. Clips went viral instantly. Comment sections turned into war zones. Some fans said the pain felt real. Others said tears don't erase betrayal. Twitter split clean down the middle, with hashtags accusing one side of being fake and the other of being cold. Old lyrics from both artists were pulled up and reanalyzed like coded messages. Every bar suddenly sounded like a confession or a warning. Then came the alleged leaks. Nothing confirmed. Nothing posted outright. Just screenshots people swore were real. Messages that supposedly showed permission being given. Others that suggested anger when that permission was questioned later. A rumored voice memo made the rounds in private group chats, grainy, distorted, impossible to verify, but enough to keep the chaos alive. In it, a voice allegedly says, "You know I wouldn't do you like that." Whether it was real or not didn't matter. The damage was already spreading. Meanwhile, Youngboy's camp stayed locked down. No interviews. No statements. Just moves. People noticed who was still around and who wasn't. Who showed up on tour? Who got cut out of visuals? Who stopped being mentioned altogether? And in Youngboy's world, absence is louder than accusations. One insider claimed that Youngboy's reaction wasn't fueled by rage, it was fueled by principle. That in his mind, the explanation didn't matter anymore. Because the moment trust became questionable, the relationship was already dead. Another source said he felt embarrassed more than angry. Not because of the money, but because he felt played by someone he defended for years. And here's where the story twists again. A few people close to the situation claim Youngboy was warned long before this happened. Subtle warnings. Nothing direct. Just comments like "watch who you keep close" and "everybody not you." At the time, he brushed them off. Loyalty meant more to him than paranoia. But once this situation exploded, those warnings started echoing in his head, and that made the betrayal feel inevitable instead of shocking. The homie on the outside, meanwhile, was spiraling. Watching tour clips. Seeing sold-out arenas. Knowing his voice used to be part of that movement. He publicly insisted there was no hate. That he still loved Youngboy. That he was proud of him. But even supporters could hear the desperation underneath. Because pride can only protect you for so long before reality sets in. And reality was cruel. Opportunities dried up. Industry calls slowed. Features stopped coming. In hip-hop, perception is currency, and once the word untrustworthy floats around, justified or not, doors start closing quietly. That's when the interviews became more frequent. The explanations are more detailed. The tone is more pleading. Some fans started asking a new question: why won't Youngboy just address it and end this? And insiders say that's exactly why he won't. Because to him, explaining gives power back. And he refuses to give power to someone he believes already crossed the line. But just when it looked like the story had reached its peak, another rumor surfaced, one that sent shockwaves through both camps. Allegedly, there was a moment after the fallout where Youngboy was prepared to confront everything publicly. Lyrics recorded. A track shelved. A verse so direct that people around him begged him not to drop it. Not because it wasn't true, but because it would permanently destroy any chance of reconciliation. That track, according to whispers, still exists. And if it ever sees the light of day, it won't just end debates. It will end relationships forever. By the time the final layer started peeling back, it became clear this was never really about money. It was about control, memory, and survival in a world where one wrong move gets you erased. Because what happened next didn't unfold on interviews or timelines, it happened quietly, behind closed doors, where reputations are decided long before the public ever finds out. According to alleged insiders, after weeks of silence, Youngboy finally spoke, just not to the world. He spoke to his inner circle. And what he said reportedly stunned everyone in the room. One source claims he made it clear that forgiveness wasn't the issue. The issue was certainty. He didn't want apologies. He didn't want explanations. He wanted to know one thing: was I played, or wasn't I? And in his mind, the fact that the story kept changing was already the answer. Behind the scenes, there was reportedly a meeting that almost no one knows about. A quiet sit-down arranged by mutual connections, meant to clear the air once and for all. No cameras. No phones. Just truth. But here's the part that flipped everything upside down: that meeting never happened. At the last minute, Youngboy allegedly pulled out. Not out of fear. Out of finality. One insider says he told his team, "If I gotta ask, I already know." That sentence alone sealed the door. Meanwhile, the other side was unraveling. Friends say the weight of being cut off didn't hit immediately. At first, there was confidence. Belief that time would fix it. That loyalty would speak louder than rumors. But as months passed, reality set in. Invitations stopped coming. Calls went unanswered. The silence wasn't loud, it was surgical. And that's when the emotional cracks started showing. Those close to the situation claim there were nights of regret. Of replaying that moment over and over, wondering how one misunderstanding could destroy years of brotherhood. Was it pride? Was it timing? Or was it the unspoken truth that money changes how people see everything, including each other? Because once millions are involved, innocence stops mattering, only perception does. Then came the moment that truly shattered any illusion of reconciliation. According to a leaked account from someone who was present, Youngboy was asked directly whether there was any scenario where things could be fixed. His response was ice cold. Allegedly, he said, "I don't hate him. I just don't trust him. And I can't build with someone I don't trust." In his world, that's not anger, that's law. Fans didn't know this yet. All they saw was the continued separation. The absence. The quiet removal from a movement that was once built on brotherhood. And online, the debate grew more vicious by the day. Some said Youngboy was heartless. Others said he was protecting himself the only way he knows how. Clips of old interviews resurfaced where he talked about betrayal, about people switching once money comes. Suddenly, those words felt prophetic. Then something strange happened. A new song dropped. No names mentioned. No direct accusations. But the tone was unmistakable. Lines about counting money alone. About keeping circles tight. About learning that love doesn't equal loyalty. Fans immediately clocked it. Comment sections exploded. Reaction videos went live within minutes. Everyone was convinced this was the song, the response, the closure. But insiders say that wasn't even the track everyone feared. Apparently, there's another one. Recorded earlier. Raw. Unfiltered. A verse so direct that even people closest to Youngboy begged him not to release it. Not because it was lies, but because it would permanently brand someone in a way no explanation could undo. That verse, according to whispers, names the feeling that hurt the most: embarrassment. The embarrassment of trusting someone too much. The embarrassment of realizing loyalty wasn't mutual. Why hasn't it dropped? Because once it does, there's no going back. No, a misunderstanding. No, we squashed it. Just ashes. On the other side, the desperation reportedly peaked when it became clear the door wasn't just closed, it was sealed. Industry connections allegedly advised focusing forward, not backward. Build something new. Let the past die. But that's easier said than done when your name is tied to someone else's empire. When every headline mentions you only in relation to what you lost. And then came the last twist. A source claims Youngboy didn't just cut ties emotionally, he changed how he moves entirely. New protocols. New money handling. New layers of separation between friendship and business. People who once had access no longer do. Trust became transactional. Loyalty became tested daily. The fallout didn't just remove one person, it reshaped the entire structure. That's when fans started asking a darker question: what if Youngboy was right all along? What if this wasn't paranoia, but pattern recognition born from years of loss? From watching people switch when the numbers grow? From knowing that in his world, the smallest betrayal can turn fatal? And yet, there's one detail that refuses to stay buried. Multiple insiders claim there is still one unresolved piece of evidence. Not a receipt. Not a video. But a witness. Someone who was there. Someone who knows exactly what happened that night. Someone who hasn't spoken yet. Whether out of fear, loyalty, or self-preservation, no one knows. But if that person ever decides to talk, this entire story flips on its head. Because if they confirm one side, the other is finished. No more debates. No more he said. Just the truth. And until that happens, the story remains suspended, frozen between brotherhood and betrayal, loyalty and loss. Two men who came from nothing, now standing on opposite sides of silence. One building an empire bigger than ever. The other is trying to reclaim a name that feels permanently stained. This isn't just a hip-hop drama. This is what happens when trust becomes currency, and someone spends it wrong. And the scariest part? Everyone involved knows this story isn't actually over. Because in a world where music is memory, all it takes is one song, one leak, or one voice finally deciding to speak, and everything changes overnight. If you've made it this far, you already know this story isn't just gossip, it's a warning. This is what happens when loyalty collides with money, when brotherhood meets power, and when silence becomes louder than any confession. And trust me, this is not the end. Stories like this don't disappear. They wait. They simmer. And when they come back uglier, louder, and way more explosive than anyone expects. So if you don't want to be the last one finding out when the next bomb drops, you already know what to do. Hit that like button right now because it tells the algorithm this conversation matters. Drop a comment and tell me where you stand. Do you believe loyalty should outweigh mistakes, or is betrayal a line you can never uncross? I read every single one, and the realist takes always rise to the top. And most importantly, subscribe and turn on notifications. Not later. Not tomorrow. Right now. Because when the next piece of this story leaks, and insiders swear it will, you're going to want to hear it first, not secondhand through watered-down clips and half-truths. This channel doesn't sugarcoat, doesn't play favorites, and doesn't miss when the silence finally breaks. Hip-hop history is being written in real time, and you're either watching it unfold live, or you're catching up after the damage is already done. Stay locked in. Stay sharp. And don't blink, because the moment someone decides to finally talk, everything changes.